So you see, there is this crazy TV series called 1,000 Ways to Die. But apparently by the end of its run, they had apparently got only up to 500 ways, unique ways, special ways that you could die. Apparently nowhere in the series did they include the example of the person who died from not having sex. Now, a little more known around the subject of death is the great spin-off crime series CSI, which of course stands for Crime Scene Investigators. You know, where scientific experts solve these crazy crimes in 1 hour. I mean, sometimes they solve 2 crimes in an hour. And I'm always endlessly fascinated by how many creative ways there are to kill somebody. But let me say this. In all of my crime watching episodes, I have never yet seen the investigator come up with the conclusion, well, I can tell you how he died. He died from not having sex. Look at that. The guy's balls are blue. Well, what did you expect? Poor guy. He died from not having sex. Well, today on Finding Traction, we explore this topic. I'll die without having sex, the embedded belief or a version of it that's actually a lot more relevant to your porn struggles than you may care to admit. Welcome aboard.
Ready?
When it comes to porn, are you stuck, spinning out, or slipping backwards in your life? If so, then welcome to the Finding Traction podcast, a show dedicated to those who are looking to gain recovery momentum away from porn and toward the life and relationships they have always hoped for. Now, here's your host, Vern Tomke.
Well, let me just say I love it when guys reach out to me. There's a number of different ways that I've now kind of created that I can connect with guys and help guys on their journey away from porn. First of all, I do a monthly Finding Traction community. We get together on the last Sunday night of every month. We're mid-month right now, so the end of June we'll be getting together for our next meeting Sunday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific. I also do weekly Finding Traction groups where we get together 5, 6, 7, 8 guys and we walk through my 52-week video course, Finding Traction. Guys connect online on WhatsApp. They support each other throughout the week, and then we get together each week and we talk and learn together about how to grow in our recovery. Or some guys are looking for individual coaching, and I do that as well. Sometimes I coach guys every second week or even once a month, whatever that is, whatever your needs are. I'd love it if you'd reach out to me at bandofbrothers.care@gmail.com. Okay, let's get back to this statement, I'll die without sex. Now, I know that most of us know that that is not literally true. But let me say this. I would submit to you that we live and act like it is more true than we realize or care to admit. Now, let me just say this about beliefs, because beliefs are a funny thing. Our actual beliefs may be different than the ones that we claim to have. For example, it was the philosopher Michael Novak who said that we need to distinguish between 3 types of beliefs. There were public beliefs. Those are the things that we say we believe. Number 2, there is our private beliefs. Those things that we believe in private or we think we believe. But most importantly, there are our core beliefs. What we actually believe when it comes down to a pinch. They may be unconscious, but they are revealed by circumstances or suffering. Those are the ones that actually drive us. Those are our core beliefs. Now, along the same idea, one of the godfathers of sexual addiction work, Patrick Carnes, he identified 4 core beliefs that kind of undergirded most of the mindsets of the sexually compulsive and addicted people that he worked with. Now, one of those 4 was this: sex is my most important need, which I kind of spun into the version of that, which is I'll die without sex. And he said almost everyone that he worked with had 4 beliefs. The one I'm focusing on is, I see this over and over again, the idea that sex is my most important need. Now, some of us are going, well, I don't really believe that, do I? But I'm going to ask you a few diagnostic questions that actually can maybe suss out whether or not that is actually a truer belief than you care to admit. Now, the first one is pretty obvious. It's this: do you have the mistaken belief that sex is a physical need? Let me say this: it is not actually a need. It often gets said as a need as a misnomer, but it is not a physical need. You need to breathe. Sometimes you need to cough. You need food. You need water to live. You don't need sex to live. Some people said, but isn't it physically unhealthy to not have regular ejaculations? Well, actually, no, it's not. Your bodies have a way of dealing with not having sex. We've all experienced, for example, nocturnal emissions or wet dreams where our bodies take care of the buildup of sperm. Now, even if that doesn't happen, science tells us that after 7 days of not ejaculating, if a person doesn't ejaculate, the unreleased sperm breaks down and absorbs back into the body. That CSI joke I made at the front about someone having blue balls is actually one of those myths that without orgasm, your balls would turn blue and it would harm you. The truth is, it actually doesn't cause any harm. There may be temporary discomfort, but it usually goes away on its own. Sex is not a physical need. Okay, well, let's move beyond that to a little more subtle ones. Do you have the mistaken belief that sex is something that you need to express to be fully healthy or fully human? I remember the first time I heard a teaching on this, and the fellow talked about a false belief system that he called essentialism. And when essentialism is applied to our sexuality, it's stated this way: it is essential that I fully express my sexual drives, orientation, or desires to be fully human, and to limit those desires in any way is unhealthy and harmful to my personhood. That is the false belief of essentialism. Now, I recognize that this belief of essentialism is so accepted as truth in our society that it's almost never challenged, but it's actually not true. So, let's go to the next one. And let's talk about some of the examples where you might realize, I might believe that more than I think, because I want to talk about how you express your sexuality within, for example, your marriage. Okay, here we go, getting down to brass tacks. This might be getting a little bit close to home. Number 3, whenever my partner is unable or unwilling to have sex with me, I feel deeply threatened and vulnerable. Why? Because after all, my survival depends on it, and you can only hold your breath for so long. So does it make you feel deeply threatened and vulnerable? A different version of this. Whenever my partner is unable or unwilling to have sex with me, I feel justified in taking care of my own needs by masturbating or looking at porn or doing both together because, after all, what's a guy to do? You can only hold your breath for so long, right? It's needed, right? You get the idea. You see how this plays out. Let's continue this. Whenever my partner is unable or unwilling to have sex with me, I am unable to stand on my own. Self-control is not really something I've learned to practice or am good at. Because after all, I need it to survive, and I can only hold my breath for so long. Here's another one. My partner at times feels like she's taking care of a child that cannot be left on their own. They feel anxiety about going away or leaving me for any period of time because I have communicated that I need her close to feel safe. Why do I need her close? Because I need her to be available to give me sex whenever I feel like my self-control is waning. And finally, number 7, in my marriage, my wife feels pressurized or pressured to have sex with me to keep me on the sobriety tightrope. Because after all, a guy can only hold his breath for so long. In my communication with her, I subtly, or not so subtly, make it her responsibility to keep me sexually satisfied so I don't fall or feel tempted. And I guess here's the last one, and you might not want to ask your wife this question, or you might if you really want to have a deep, honest conversation with her, if you think this might be going on. In my marriage, my wife feels resentful at times because I can't wait for a better time to be intimate. It has to be right now because I'm struggling. And after all, a guy can only hold his breath for so long. Do you get where I'm going with this? There's all sorts of attitudes and behaviors that really indicate deep down our core belief that sex is my most important need. Now, again, you might want to keep this podcast away from your wife, or you actually might want to ask her, does she ever feel some of these things at different times? So, let's ask this question. What is true? I'm not here to diss sex. I'm not saying it's not a good thing that draws you together. I'm not saying that a good sex life is a bad thing. It's actually a great thing. But I want to give you a few truth statements that I think can be more healthy for both you and your relationship. Let me give a few of them. Here we go. I can live without sex, but it is a good and pleasurable drive to move me towards greater connection in a way consistent with my beliefs, values, and relational commitment. Another one. In our relationship, I can go for periods of time without sex because it is something that I can control and does not control me. And the last one, because sex is not my greatest need, I can move from a place of frantic selfishness to actually seeing sex as an opportunity to serve and enjoy my wife, whether or not I'm having sex or not. So, some challenging stuff there. Here's to hoping that you don't die in some new and unique way this coming week. But I can assure you, rest assured, if you do, it won't be because you didn't have sex this week. We'll see you next week, God willing.